also for your own mental wellness is about, are you going to stay with certain people that you're going to allow them in your life? Sometimes, again, with family members, we have no choice, right? They're there, unfortunately. I mean, you can sort of say how much you can see them, but you cannot say we're done. That you can with people who you might have thought were your friends, and still have the scenario where it's kind of like, I kind of liked you before this experience. I don't like who you are now. And unfortunately, or whichever, once we've had an experience, that changes us. We can no longer go back to the person that we were,
Yes.
right? It's kind of like, I mean, it's like blowing up a balloon and then popping it. You can't pop it back up again. And so that's the way I kind of look at it. And throughout my journey, because I always go, I had 10 years where that was in limbo, trying to figure things out, trying to fix myself, of course, thinking I was broken and what's wrong with me, when in actual fact, there isn't anything. And it's once embracing or leaning into that pain that you kind of think, or I found that it was like, okay, let's do something different. How can I help someone else? And that's my journey of becoming a certified grief educator, is looking at that there needs to be voices that will share our stories and share to someone else, going, you know what? Maybe what society wants isn't exactly what's right.
Maria, I got what might be a weird question, but grief counseling, do you think that there would be a benefit for everyone to go through a little bit of grief counseling, to maybe even pre pre grieve? Like, if you know that there is a loss coming, you were with your, you just mentioned you had your son's cancer diagnosis for 11 years. Do you think that maybe a little bit of pre grief counseling would have helped you?
That's a really good question, very valid, Zach. And I personally, I don't think anything would have helped me.
Yeah.
Uh, right. In that, even though, because I remembered they were, throughout those 11 years, I'm one of these people that really focuses on hope, until, there's nothing that you can do at the very end. And I still will hope. And I guess throughout the 11 years, we've always had miracles, where, he almost died. And then he got through that period of time. And I'll use getting through that in an illness sort of sense, like a physical illness, right? And surgeries. And so even when they told me that he was dying, there's still that part of our brain that doesn't want it to be real. And so having someone telling me how to prepare, I mean, even though I knew that he was dying, I mean, even when they told me he was dying and it was 3 months afterwards that he passed away, it was still unexpected and it was still a shock.
I I do guess I can see how that would have maybe been seen as potentially like folding up and giving up. I guess I could see how that. I'm just wondering if maybe this is something that you can, in which there's no way you can prepare for this. You can't prepare. You and I talked about it when we had our little one-on-one. With you doing what you're doing now, Maria, I have all the love in the world for you, because I am not sure how I would be able to pick myself up with the loss of my son. I've never been put in that situation, thank God. But I don't know. I see people like you, I see people like John, I see a couple of our other guests who've been able to do that, and I'm amazed by what you're doing. Patrick, why don't you go on ahead and give us your introduction real quick, and then if you have any questions for Maria, please.
Just mine's gonna be short today. So I'm the founder of a call Edge Global, and one of the many things that a call Edge Global does is one of the projects is called the Teen Initiative, Youth Initiative, and we have founded our first one here in White House, Tennessee. That program is called the Roots, and what we do is give teenagers the tools to be able to figure out um, what it is that they can do to impact the communities right now at the ages that they're at. So whether you're 16 through 21, which is the main group that I work with, because they're either getting ready to go out into the world or in the world and like, oh crap, this wasn't what I thought it was, you know. And what we do is try to help them, give them the tools to help them figure out how to navigate it without us trying to put them into a mold, without me trying to put them into a mold or what they think should be doing, just giving them the tools. And so um, it's something that right now is we're getting ready to go into an elderly home, um, and they're the ones that's actually pushing the program, starting it from beginning to end. Um, it's pretty awesome watching them go from uh, I don't know what I want to do with my life to like actually planning and vision casting and making mind maps and different things like that so they can be successful. It's pretty awesome. So,
Yeah, that's beautiful.
but I wear many different hats. So that's just one of them. Another one I do is deal with men um, that are going through the same similar things, um, and help counsel them through those things right there too. So, um, so Maria, so I'm listening to your story, and just really want to get back to knowing a little bit more about the situation and what you went through and stuff like that. But just even at the beginning, one of the things you had said was like, you know, when you're going through the grief process and people just want you to be like, people just want you to be okay. They don't want to deal with you when you are hurting, or they don't know how to. It's not that they don't want to, they don't want to, and they don't know how to. And so they say really crazy things that are actually more detrimental and hurtful, you know. And it's like, you know, I just lost a piece of myself and you're telling me to get over it. Would you get over if someone chopped your leg off and and just said, hey, go walk, you know? Like it's this thing that becomes impossible to ever do the same way again. And when you go through traumatic things, when you go through things that especially when it comes to life and death, um, it does, it forever changes you. And so like you taking that and turning that into something that is going to help people, um, it's just it's really cool, because that's one of the things that I see a lot of out here. Is I see a lot of people have, I just met a lady yesterday actually, um, and she had lost her husband, her mom, her uh, one of her sons, uh, her daughter-in-law, which she has the grandbaby now, committed suicide, and her husband, all in the space of 2 years.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And then like people are just telling her, you know, just you know, oh, you'll be okay. You know, just different things that we say in our communities that just like she's like she just wanted somebody to actually hear that she was hurting. You know what I mean? And just like not even say anything, just be like, you know, just let her tell what's going on with herself. And so I think it's just pretty cool what you're doing, and just can't wait to hear more about it.
Well, thank you
And
so much,
I'm
Patrick. Yeah.
sorry, I'm deeply sorry for the loss of your son, and you don't really truly heal from those things. You know, you get through it, but it's one of those things that, man, it just those kind of things stick with you.
And that's so true. I mean, as humans, we find the resilience to move forward.
Yes.
And sometimes I look at it going, it's because we don't have, there's no other option, right? Like once you've gone through a traumatic experience, and I feel for the lady that you met, because that is many losses in a short time frame.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she's just reeling from all of them. And in that, when people say you're getting through this or you're moving on, because we don't really have there is no option A or option B.
Yes.
I look back at when my son was dying, and we were there, and someone had kind of went, oh, you can, like, I can't be here and things like that. I just kind of looked at her and I'm going, that is your option, right? Because it's your friend and stuff like that. That's okay. I looked at it going, I'm his mother. There's no way that I'm going out of his side. Like, I will be here until the very end. Like, I'm not leaving his side. And that was the choice, yes, that I made. And that's probably because I felt there was no other choice or no other option. In reality, there probably were two options. I could stay or I could go. But I think sometimes is that as humans, whatever we've experienced, again, there's only those two options. We can sit in the stuckness, in the struggles, and not move forward. And I only use the words move forward. I don't go moving on or getting through. It's moving forward. And moving forward just means each day you just do something that brings you joy or that gets you through the day. And then the next day and the next day. And you try or you look for what is meaning, because anytime someone has experienced something, you really look at, it makes us question life for sure. And sometimes I look at it, we can ask the why and we'll never get an answer on it, especially when it's a traumatic event. Because any why, any answer will never be enough.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I look at it going, you know what? I can't deal with the whys. I can only deal with what happened and validate what I'm feeling. And as you made a mention to that, Patrick, when you mentioned about that lady that really sometimes no one has that magic wand that can change the scenario. No matter as much as that we want to have our own wand that we can change what's happened, that's not going to be. We can only accept it. And when I say accept, it's really about an awareness and acknowledgement and validation. Because that's really what it is. We want other people to validate what we've experienced rather than brushing it off and kind of go, oh, yeah, we know what happened. But okay, aren't you better now? Like, when are you getting back to your old self again?
You just kind of mentioned this, but there is no why in the world that's going to give you a satisfactory answer on that. There's no why that's going to be there that's going to explain how that's going to explain away the pain. And all why is going to do is potentially hurt more. So what is it, Maria, in us that makes us search for the why? Is it just our inability to, at that point in time, to think straight? Is it just, is this something that we should kind of maybe take and again start looking at that, there is no why for this crazy stuff to happen?
And I think you've hit that. There is no why stuff happens. Because one of the aspects is our brains want to control the scenario. We sometimes feel that, I always go the sort of the self-judgment, the woulda, coulda, shouldas, what ifs, if onlys. If only I had been in a different spot. If only I had done this. If I hadn't gone here today, or, like our minds make us think that we happen to be more superhuman than we are. And because of that, we find that we want to, if we had an answer to it, the scenario or the result would have been different. And we have no control over what happens at times, as much as we want to have, or as much as we think we have control. And I think that's why we want to look for answers, is because it kind of gives us that control, rather than sort of saying, I don't have control over anyone else's choices, anyone else's decisions. I don't have control over what happens in the universe. I only have control over my own actions and my own thoughts or feelings. And sometimes that, do we really have control over our thoughts or feelings? I always go, sometimes I don't know what comes first. It's like that chicken and the egg. Is it our thoughts that make our feelings, or is it our feelings that give us our thoughts? I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Patrick, you had a question.
I'm trying to think of how to say what I want to say and be wise about it. I would say, like, for me in those areas, like, my faith changed a lot of different things, where, like, before, like, I didn't. So I went through a period of time where I've seen a lot of people commit suicide, and then I took my own life myself, right? 2 years ago. And when we and I don't want to, like, go so deep into all that, because this is like your journey, your story about it. But I just remember this point in time where, when I was asking the why, it was everything that you were talking about, and also there was this point in time where my purpose for life was seriously challenged, because, like you said, you feel like you have no control over whatever the circumstances is. You can't go back and fix it. You can't go back and do anything. All the damage is done, and a lot of it wasn't even, like, out of, like you really had no control over things, but people expected you to be able to control these things or be in this certain place or whatever, and couldn't, right? And but there came this point and moment where through that process of trying to figure out, I found my answers. I I really did find my answers in understanding that, I might not never know the why, much less understand it. But, like, the things that we're doing now that comes out of that, it just, like, the why was, for me, is like the purpose how it transforms you and changes you to do these other things that you never in a million years would have ever thought that you would have done. And I could guess to say that's a way of moving forward, but I found my peace in understanding who God was in my life, like who He actually really was. Because when I died, I had an opportunity to, like, see this other side of things, and that I wasn't actually as alone as I thought I was, and I was so much more loved and being cared for in all the grief that I was suffering through than I could have possibly ever imagined. And when that started to be this thing I embraced in my life, like, the whole fabric of my reality just completely changed to this hope and this peace that, like, there's no understanding to it. There's no understanding to it. And I'm still a man of great suffering, to be really honest about it. But, like, my peace and hope in it all is like is the more I understand that love from God, I- some people believe in, some people don't. That love from God is just absolutely just a game changer in how things play out because I'm not stuck with the whys anymore. I'm just like, okay, help me with the what's the purpose out of this? What is it that what is my purpose to move forward in? And most times I don't have answers. I just don't have answers. But the magnitude of blessings in my life is on an astronomical level. Like kind of being freed from those burdens of like you're saying, like asking why, because it's like I have this purpose. Just go walk in that direction. So that's that's all I kind of have in that vein of thinking. Because I really think you're absolutely right. I've never heard it actually how you broke it down just now. I
Mhm.
never actually like thought about it in application to things that have happened to me. And I was just like, huh, that actually gives voice to what is that's actually going on in my life, and I didn't understand it. So it's very cool. You had a very powerful story, Maria. Like it's amazing.
Well, Maria, when you started healing hearts,
Mhm.
what was it in your life? What was the one thing that made you decide this is what I'm going to do from this moment on? I'm going to take what I've learned and I'm going to move it towards helping the healing of other people. What was that moment? Why did that start?
Well, first, I think it started with a moment when it finally dawned on me that grief wasn't going anywhere. So I used to call myself a grieving mom. Some people would get offended when I would say I'm a grieving mom, and now I've changed it to a bereaved mom. Seems a little bit more gentler because I feel that our experiences don't disappear.
Mm.
They're still there. They're in our memories, and so there's no use in trying to run away from them. So I kind of embraced that. Yeah, I'm going to be grieving for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be more empowering. It's like a weight lifted. And even then, I hadn't really thought that I would be in the grief arena. It was more about my journey. And Patrick, I really liked how you said, faith. Faith has always been, I guess, my strength. I always go, it was faith that actually kept the broken pieces or my shattered pieces together, right? Being held by unconditional love by God. And so I would get these whispers of saying, this is where you're supposed to be. And I'd go, no, no, that's not me. Like, why would I be in there? Who's going to listen to me? And it kept going on for 6 months until finally I went, okay, yes, I will enter into this arena and share. Because if I was struggling and hurting, and as I mentioned beforehand, like I was 10 years almost sleepwalking in the sense of physically I was here, but I wasn't really here. It was like I was just going through the motions of life. And in reality, what I was waiting was kind of like, when's the day that I'm going to die? Like I was looking forward to my death day.
This was after your son.
And this was after my son.
That's when you started sleepwalking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not actual sleepwalking, but that's what it felt like.
Yeah,
It felt like
I know exactly when you said it. I know exactly what you meant. Like you're just in
okay.
this.
Yeah, you're here,
Yeah,
but you're kind of like,
I know
and
exactly what you're talking about.
and life just seems like a blur. Like if you were to ask me what was in those 10 years, I have no idea,
Mm.
right? Because everything seemed like a blur. And I think as you said, once you find that purpose, and the purpose doesn't have to be like this big, grandiose idea. It could just be even something small, like volunteering or starting just a group of, helping even in your neighborhood. It just gives something like it's not going to take away the pain. And I always go, it's not that the pain lessens. As we find our purpose, we get bigger than the pain.
Mm.
And that's, I think, something that we need to remember, because a lot of people feel that, because I was still, and that's one of the reasons why I thought, what's wrong with me? I was waiting for the pain to disappear. And I know, Zach, I think we had this conversation, and
Yeah.
I usually kind of have it like, you're on, say you're on a river and you're going from one side to the next, and you're going to jump, going to go to the other side. You don't leave the pain behind you. It's not like you can separate it and go, okay, you're going to stay on this side of the river because I'm going on the other side and I'm going through, over it. Well, it doesn't. It comes through you. And it's the same thing when I find when people use the words, you can go through it. Well, it's not a tunnel that all of a sudden I'm going to be at the other side and everything's going to magically be better. It's I'm moving forward in life. And yes, I'm making choices that are good for me at this time. However, I'm still carrying my pain with me. Someone else may not see it. However, it's there. It's like the Japanese, there's a term that they use for how the Japanese paint a broken vase. They actually,
Tsugi. Yeah.
right? And how they put it together. However, they're not masking the brokenness. They're actually painting it in gold so that way you see it. And I feel that's how we are as a person when we've experienced trauma. Our experiences have actually made us who we are. Someone else may not see that. And they may look at it as, oh, you're a better person. I don't look at it as making us better. I look at it as using those struggles, as using that experience and just highlighting it, because it's just made us who we are at this time.
What is your purpose with Healing Hearts? Healing Hearts, sorry.
That's okay. It's really just for people to recognize, to be authentic, to look at it, to own their experiences. Whatever experience that you've gone through, whatever struggles that you've gone through, I think we've lived in a society for so long that's wanted to hide whatever struggles that we've gone through, whatever nastiness has been out there. And I feel that it needs to be in the open, because it's when we're open, when we're vulnerable, that we get to see each other's humanity. And we realize that there's more similarities than there's differences. And all of us go through something. We may not see it. And I like, Patrick, how you said, because that's one of the things that I noticed too, even after my son died. All of a sudden, passages in the Bible would kind of make sense, like, oh, okay, yeah. And sometimes, even if you're compassionate even beforehand, I mean, I thought I was a compassionate person, not judgmental. Okay, I probably did judge before. Gotta be upfront and honest. Like, I'm thinking all of us judge,
Yeah.
whether we want to or not. It's there, right? But afterwards, it was almost like the stuff about, just because we see someone, I don't know what their experiences are. I don't know what their struggles have been. And I noticed even with my son who was ill, who had cancer, no one knew he had cancer because he had a blood cancer. And so looking at him from the outside, everyone thought, oh, he's healthy, he's good. He'd go work out at the gym, because even for himself, that was the way he would keep himself, so that way, that appearance that he was healthy. And yet inside, there was so much going on that no one saw. And that's how we are with our experiences that anyone has gone through, or things that they've seen that stay with us. And it's changed us. And sometimes we have to be aware of that, but also acknowledge and sort of accept that. Does that make sense?
Maria, you're a breath of fresh air right now. So, I mean, seriously, with that being with that being the direction that you're taking things in, and talking to people, and because it's such a needed thing. It really is. It was something that the people around me didn't know what to do. So it was hurting me more than it was helping me. And I had to get to a point where I just started withdrawing from the world. Like I just started withdrawing and just going to my being by myself. And it was honestly just me and God, and my current fiance now. It was me, God, and her really that really talked the most. Um, and then I actually had these brothers that I end up meeting that just constantly spoke life into me. You know what I mean? Just healing things. Hey man, like what you're going through is not who you are and stuff like that. And but let me be, kind of let me actually go through what I was going through, go through that, because like, to be really honest, I'm still dealing with it. I'm still dealing with all of that experience, right? And then when I look at other people that have gone through similar things, and even what you're talking about right now, even listening to you, like you're still going through it. You know what I mean? And I'm listening to the people yesterday that we did this event, and they're going through it. People that have lost kids. I met a lady that, like, I've never heard of a more traumatic life in my entire life. What this lady went through, and we were doing an interview with her. It was just mind blowing that she's like still a sane person. And so like I really, really, really love the fact when you're saying, like, it's not this tunnel that you dig through. That was because I that's something I even said a lot too. It's like, oh, you just got to go through the pain and stuff like that, and from football and sports and all that kind of stuff, you say things like that. And I do think there's a portion where you get to be on top of that pain, and because the Lord calls us more than conquerors, so we get to have this conquering phase of where you're standing on top of that pain, but that pain is still like part of you. It's part of like what happened. It's actually part of the power of the help that you're able to give and draw from. Because that pain actually lets you have empathy that you never had before. I would deal with a lot of suicidal people, right? And then I saw it as weakness until it happened to me. And then I understood, like, it wasn't a weakness. It was like mental issues and problems and things that you don't know who to deal with. And now my empathy for mental health, all that kind of stuff is like on a whole nother level, because it's like it's so easy for those things to happen. So easy. You don't even know it's happening to you half the time. And so like seeing how this thing has turned around into this thing where you're so, even the way you're speaking about it, you can hear like your care for the other people that you're coming across, and like you're really going to care for their hearts that are hurting, when a lot of times we don't have the capacity to do it because we don't understand it, you know and so like that actually, that's what I hear when I talk to you. Like I'm like this lady that I'm talking to right now, I'm like, that's a lady that I know that you'd be able to talk to that lady and understand what the heck she's talking about, and care for her properly. You know, that's thank you for, letting your heart be changed through all that and what you're doing with it now. It's just all that stuff that happened became a game changer for so many other people. It's awesome, Maria. Seriously.
Maria, I got a question for you, and this is coming from you losing somebody very special to you who was ill. When somebody comes up to you after the loss of your son and they go, well, at least he's no longer suffering. Can you, and you know what? I've been so guilty of that so many times. And I after talking to you, after talking to other people, I sit there and go, you are such a condescending jerk at times, and I really start thinking about that. What what did you want to tell people at that point in time? What did you want to tell them?
Oh, I can't share what I wanted.
No, believe it or not, Maria, here you can. So
It
I
would be
I
bleep, bleep,
really
bleep, bleep, bleep.
I don't believe anything. So, but I would really like to know. I really want to get that point across that, what, that's not as sensitive as people think it is. That's
It's disrespectful is really what it is. I mean, there's a lot of words that people say, and and over time I've learned the intention wasn't there to harm, as you said. They're looking at it as an aspect. Oh, well, that person had an illness. They're not suffering anymore. Well, realistically, none of us know what our pain points are. And so I look back and thinking, you know what? Like my son fought all the way. Like you could tell that he wanted to live, even on, you know, his last breath sort of thing. I'm the one, the nurses kept telling me that I needed to tell him to let go. Right. It was okay for him to leave. And so when I look at it and you have people that say that, it really is. I mean, in my mind, it's kind of like you bleep, 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 bleep. Um, and it really is. And sometimes I think when the best word sometimes I always go is saying nothing. Like even sometimes the words that we use, I'm sorry, my condolences, really seem even empty. I mean, I understand that there are no words and people want to feel like they're giving you something of comfort. And sometimes no words are actually better. Like this is a time when silence is golden, right? Uh, you hear about in some scenarios, silence means you're complicit. In grief, silence is golden. It's okay not to say anything. And I always tell people, even if you're going to give someone a hug, ask them first. Don't assume that they want you to touch them. And the only reason I say that is because when I said that I changed like 180 degrees, is that was one of the aspects that all of a sudden just hugging me, like even just tapping me on the shoulder, felt painful. It was like my whole body was holding on to this pain. And pain shows up in different ways, right? And Patrick, I get that because pain could show up in our bodies. It can show up in our thoughts, like in our mental wellness. And a lot of people don't assume that because you're grieving that, they just assume that, oh, it's only your emotions. Well, actually, when you're hurting, it's everything that's hurting. It's your mind, like that's hurting. So it's your mind, body, and soul that are all hurting, and it's all blended in together, and they can't really be separated. And I think sometimes people just want to separate things. They want to separate your thoughts from your emotions, from your spirituality. Well, it's not, it's all together. And all of it can be hurting either all at the same time, and one might be hurting more at one time than the next, but it's all there. And I just wanted to share, like with Patrick's things, one of my, as you said, for empathy, I looked at it going that when we're in pain, we're looking for coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
And sometimes coping mechanisms are different types of like soothing, right? It could be like we drink more or we're into medication or um, I always used to go, thank you God for making me like two drinks and I can't have any more. Like two drinks is my limit. Or taking like I can't swallow pills. So that, like I couldn't self-medicate that way. However, one of the places that people don't think is a coping mechanism is shopping. I became a shopper. And so it's one of those things that we're trying to keep busy or finding ways to dull the pain. And I know I kind of answer, kind of went off on a different tangent, but I did want to also approach like Patrick's aspect of how do you know, we become like our coping mechanisms, how they can, no one sometimes looks at things and we judge for when someone does something, not understanding what it is.
No, please don't apologize. It's very important that that you get this out. Look, our purpose on all of this is to make sure that people understand the different ways of doing things, because there are some people who are looking for that comfortable way for them to do something, and unless they hear you say it, they don't even know that's an option. So we want to make sure that we really do try to focus on getting everything that we can out there to try to help people. um Maria, how do when if you've got some, if you're talking to somebody who just suffered a loss and they're looking for anything, what should what should they potentially look to do? I mean, what would you guide them to do?
Find a group, either a person, right? Like a grief coach. And I think there's more grief coaches out there now than, I mean, my son passed away in 2009. So it was really hard finding a support group that wasn't saying to get over it. Because I did attend a support group and their aspect was about getting over it. So really what you want to do is to be with someone or a group where they understand, where you feel it's a good fit for you. Because part of that is because you want to be able to share freely. You want to be able to know that that person is actually holding a safe space for you where you can be vulnerable, where you can share. Because one of the things is that sometimes when we've experienced something, our thoughts can go into a different direction. And when you're sharing someone where it's not really a safe space, they look at you going, whoa, that is really weird. Like, what the heck are you thinking? Whereas when someone is in a non judgmental space and it's safe and they're holding it for you, you can say whatever you want
Yeah.
and it's perfectly acceptable. Because we know that there are thoughts that it's kind of like, oh, yeah, maybe it's out of left field sort of thing.
Okay, tell us about your 29 things to know about grief. And you can get this as a gift on your website. So, can you please tell us what this is all about?
Yeah, these are 29 things that I go, no one ever told you about grief. Like, I wish these were things that I had known, right? And part of one of the things is about that grief affects your body. Like your body hurts. I hadn't realized that because I think we focus so much on its only emotions.
Yep.
It's about the the activators, how something can activate, like a word could activate, a scent can. These are things that I wouldn't have known. Part of it is also we've been taught that grief has a timeline, you know, X amount of times and you should be over it. Well, no one's going to tell you that grief lasts forever. And it's not, and even though and sometimes when I say grief lasts forever, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, like I'm going to be sad all the time and I'm just going to be miserable and stuff. Or even about that you can be sad and joyful at the same time. You can have these two conflicting emotions. How many times sometimes, I mean, I was told once when someone saw me laughing, oh, you're over it now. No, my son is still dead. So I'm not over it. And so these are the things where all of a sudden you're kind of feeling like, oh, either you have to be sad or you have to be happy. Like you can't be both. And in grief, yes, you can be.
That actually really puts you into a difficult situation, doesn't it? When somebody says, "Oh, you're happy now. Now I can approach you with anything. Now this is all over. Pain is done, gone, buried, dead, gone. And now I can approach you about anything." And yeah, that really does put you or anybody, it puts them in a very, very difficult situation.
Hmm.
That I really do. I think there's a lot of times in which, look, we all know that a lot of us need to speak a hell of a lot less and listen a hell of a lot more. We truly do. We really got to be careful with what we say, and as we just, as I came to my own conclusion that I was, really saying some stupid stuff at points in times. Again, no, never meant any offense to it, but boy, it really did. It struck me how terrible that was for me to say, something like that. So, but I I know that we're getting close to the end of our time. I I just want to tell you that, your story is so amazing, and your work is so wonderful. And I want to let you know that I appreciate you being able to continue to do what you do, because I do understand that your days aren't filled with, okay, now I need to teach people how to get over it. It's, can I help you get through it? Or can I help you continue? Or even, can I help you live, continue to live through it? It's going to be there. Um, so I appreciate you joining us, and I appreciate you having people help you out. Maria, how do people get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of me through either the website, mariabelanic.com, or email me at healingheartwhispers@gmail.com.
No. I do suggest to everyone, go onto the website and check out the book, the 29 things to know about grief. And Maria, do you think that would be a good idea if you know somebody who's going through grief, to
Oh,
even look through that book?
oh, definitely. If they know someone, and even going through grief, it doesn't have to be someone who is recent. I know I spoke with a woman whose daughter passed away 32 years ago. And she basically said, after speaking to me, she felt, you know, that she could actually now talk about it, because she had been silent for so long and keeping it within her, that she had a hard time because she felt like she couldn't be able to share. And now I've even noticed that she's even sharing on her social posts, right? Because she feels more comfortable now. And it's sort of a relief when you can share.
Well, I do want to thank you so much, and I just put in the chat. I put the link on the website, so you can go in there, scroll down. It's more towards the bottom of the home screen, but you can scroll down, add in your name and your email, and you'll get a free copy of the book. So, Maria, again, thank you. Patrick, what did you learn today? What questions would you like to ask Maria before we let her loose? Oh, you're on mute, brother.
I don't have any questions. The things that I took away though, I think I actually made a mistake earlier of saying something about your son. Like, I'm sorry about that, your son or whatever.
Okay.
So no, it's all good. It's all good. But when you said that, I was like, okay, because like sometimes we do say that and we might feel that, but sometimes I know how that is. I know how it is, and so sometimes I don't like it being said to me sometimes, and we just get these things because we're trying to connect as humans, and sometimes we terrible at it. Um, but one of the things that I would really taken away is just a different perspective of Um, it helped me today. It helped me understand the things that I'm still grieving about. With that whole event that happened in my life, like I like there's a time where I was I really lost everything that I loved dearly, like in one fell swoop, lost everything. And um, today helped me give word, like I know how I feel, but like to actually have words to actually, understand it a little bit better for myself. Um, to be able to help express it to other people, exactly what's going on, you know, because a lot of times being able to share, right, it takes the the power away from whatever it is that's holding you down when it comes to grief. Grief can be a sinker too. You know what I mean? It can sink you. So it just takes the power and the ability for it to sink you kind of away when you can share a little bit more about what's going on with you and understand a little bit more where you're at with things. Um, Also, just as I was talking, I'm a verbal processor about things. So like as we were talking about it, just like the empathy part of how those things like really really change you, um, to be able to help other people better with what it is that you're going through, and then just really honestly like learning about your heart and who you are as a person. That was actually what I was listening more to. You know what I mean? Like who are you becoming out of this? And that was fascinating to me, is like the journey of where you were at, and even like before everything happened, while it was going on, and then what you had to go through to come through that. Like that's an amazing person, you know. Um, so that was what I learned today. I learned who a little bit, not everything, but a little bit about who Maria is. So that was my takeaway.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I really did learn today is that, what, grief doesn't mean that, doesn't mean that you can walk up to somebody and fix every situation. So, you know, be careful. She's in, she is in, but that doesn't mean that you need to walk up and necessarily approach someone, because at times it's probably better just to shy away and uh, come at them later. Maria, what would you like to let everybody know right now before we end the show?
What I want everyone to know is that there's no right or wrong way to do grief. There's only your way. And really tap in and listen to the whispers of your heart, of your intuition, because they will actually guide you to what is right for you.
Uh, Again, I want to thank you so very much for joining us here today. And anytime that you guys have anything going on with your organization, with what you're doing, please come back and let us know so we can share it out and we can share this with people, because I would love to be a support system for you and what you do. So, but again, thank you.
Well, thank you,
And
Zach. And Patrick, I want to thank you. And it's been such a delight meeting you and hearing what you have, because there's so much wisdom in what you say.
You honor me, glory to God for that. Because I'll be done sometimes. That's God's fault, man. So thank you. I appreciate you for that. Thank you.
Well, and we want to thank everybody for putting up with my foolishness at the beginning of the show. Sometimes when you want people to show up, sending them the link, it's a good thing to do. Ugh. This whole showbiz thing, it's not for some of us, right? So, but we do want to remind you that, what, look, people are going through difficult times. Just make sure that you understand that not every difficulty can be seen. So please think about others before you speak. Let's make sure that we're taking care of each other. And, if you're not helping someone, you're hurting everyone. Please, nobody needs to go it alone. When we all come together, we can make a difference. Thank you very much. And we will see you next week right here on Footprints Forward.